But congratulations today, the honorees, including your wife, who I understand is a birthday today? Well, look, my wife has a rule in her family. When somebody's birthday, you sing happy birthday. You ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Valen. Happy birthday to you. Well, it's hell turning 30, but you got to.
This is my first video update coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus on this Tuesday morning. Let's talk about some news, and let's start things off with Joe Biden. Joe Biden was singing happy birthday yesterday to Joe Biden. Joe Bidenopoulos, Greece's favorite son. So he was supposed to be singing happy birthday to Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter-in-law, Andrea Waters King. That is who he was supposed to sing happy birthday to, but instead he said happy birthday, blah, blah, blah. That is Joe Biden. He's making a lot of news these days, not only with his gaffes, but with the classified documents turning up in all kinds of inconvenient places, including his Delaware home, for which his son, Hunter Biden, was at one point in time renting that home for $50,000 a month, and then claimed that he owned that home in various documents that were uncovered by the New York Post's Miranda Devine. Hunter Biden, he is in the news as well. And over the weekend, he had a little bit of a court incident with his 4-year-old daughter, who at one point in time he claimed was not his 4-year-old daughter. And this incident has to do with his daughter taking the Biden name. U.S. President Joe Biden's son, Hunter, filed last week to block his 4-year-old daughter, Navy Joan Roberts, from taking the Biden name, telling an Arkansas court that it would rob the girl of a peaceful existence, the New York Post reported on Saturday. Biden's lawyer filed a motion asking Arkansas Circuit Court Judge Holly Mayer to deny the name change request by Navy Jones's mother, former Biden employee London Roberts, until the girl is able to decide for herself once the disparagement of the Biden name is not at its height. Biden, who denied the child was even his until a paternity test conducted in 2019 proved otherwise, called the name change move political warfare, pointing out that Roberts had sought to have their daughter's name redacted from court records related to the DNA test. The case is ongoing, with Biden having filed in September to reduce child support payments, citing a substantial material change in his financial circumstances. He was paying $50,000 a month to rent his father's house in Delaware. And in this court case, he is saying that he needs to reduce child support payments because of substantial material change in his finances. Okay, Roberts filed last month to legally change Navy Jones's last name to Biden in a series of court motions connected to the ongoing paternity suit, telling the media through her lawyer that the child would clearly benefit from taking on the family name, which was now synonymous with being well-educated, successful, financially acute, and politically powerful. Financially acute, politically powerful, yeah, but well-educated? I don't know if that name is synonymous with being well-educated, but I see her point there. So that is Hunter Biden and his court case, the case that is working its way through the courts with his 4-year-old daughter, who at one point in time in 2019, he claimed was not his. In 2017, he was renting the house, the Delaware house with all the classified documents from his father for $50,000 a month. In 2018, I believed he submitted documents claiming that that house was his. At the same time, he was getting paid $80,000 a month from Burisma in Ukraine. And what else? Getting paid $80,000 a month from Burisma in Ukraine. In 2019, he had this case with this 4-year-old child. He had this paternity case. Now she's 4 years old, and he claimed that this child was not his, and he asked for reduced child support payments because of substantial material change. Did that have to do with the fact that he wasn't allowed on the to get paid by Burisma anymore? Was the cutting off of the $80,000 a month from Ukraine Burisma part of that substantial material change? Who knows? But allegedly, the classified documents that Biden was hiding, some of them had to do with Ukraine as well. Why is it with Biden, everything comes down to Ukraine? I think we all kind of know the answer to that question, but the European Union leaders seem to completely ignore the fact that Biden and Ukraine have all kinds of funny business going on. That's probably because all of the EU leaders also have all kinds of funny business going on in Ukraine, which is probably why they are driving us deeper into this conflict with Russia in Ukraine. Speaking of Ukraine, we have some news on the ground here. Let me pull it up. From Ukraine, where the Wagner PMCs, they have captured a village, a settlement known as Sol in the Bakhmut area. They have also, according to various sources, have captured or are close to capturing the settlement of Kleshchevka. And according to various sources, if the Russian military, the Wagner PMCs, do confirm the capture of these settlements, especially Kleshchevka, that would mean that Artemovsk, otherwise known as Bakhmut, is very close to encirclement. And the strange part about all of this is that Elensky continues to feed soldiers into this cauldron, knowing fully well that there's a cauldron developing or about to be closed off and encirclement about to be completed, but yet the Elensky regime continues to feed military into this developing Bakhmut cauldron. And the collective West, media and political officials are telling us that Soledar and Bakhmut is of zero strategic importance. But Elensky continues to throw military into what is effectively an encircled area. There you have it. Sticking with Ukraine, we are getting more and more military escalation, military buildup in Ukraine from collective West militaries, from NATO militaries. We have the UK Ministry of Defense saying that they're sending all kinds of weapons to Ukraine. Most notably, they are sending 14 Challenger 2 tanks to Ukraine. And we have a British general, Sir Patrick Sanders, from what I understand, in a memo, an internal memo, according to the BBC, General Patrick Sanders said in this memo, and I quote, "There is no doubt that our choice to send all of these weapons to Ukraine, including the Challenger 2s, there is no doubt that our choice will impact our ability to mobilize the army against the acute and enduring threat Russia presents and meet our NATO obligations." Sanders added that it was vital that the Army's warfighting capability be restored quickly. However, Sanders argued that Ukraine would put the tanks to, and I quote, good use, and that helping them defeat Russia makes us safer. Those tanks are going to get destroyed, by the way. So I'm not sure what kind of good use General Sanders is referring to with regards to these tanks, but the argument is that Ukraine is fighting in Ukraine, using the Ukraine army as a proxy to fight Russia, is making the UK safer. That is the argument being put forth by General Sanders. The Polish Prime Minister, Morawiecki, he was in Germany the other day celebrating German politician Wolfgang Schäuble's 50-year career. I remember Wolfgang Schäuble. He was the finance minister under Angela Merkel when the Greek financial crisis broke out. And it was actually Schäuble who proposed to the Greek government at the time an off-ramp from the euro currency. His solution to the Greek financial crisis was for Greece not to leave the European Union, but for Greece to leave the euro currency. And he offered something along the lines of 50 billion in liquidity, a 5-year plan giving Greece 50 billion in liquidity to assist them to move towards a new type of drachma, going back to a local Greek currency while staying in the European Union, but getting off of the euro currency. And that was what Schäuble offered Greece, and the Greek politicians, they denied. They rejected Schäuble's offer. But that's what I remember about Wolfgang Schäuble. Anyway, Morawiecki, he was celebrating his 50-year career, I believe, in Berlin. Yeah, he was speaking in Berlin. And he talked about Germany's obligation to empty out their weapon stockpiles and give them all over to Ukraine. Morawiecki said, today Ukrainians are fighting not only for their freedom, but also in defense of Europe. Morawiecki insisted that Germany deliver all their weapons, whatever weapons they have, to Ukraine, saying, I call on the German government to act decisively to deliver all types of weapons to Ukraine. The defeat of Ukraine may become a prelude to World War III. So today there is no reason to block support for Kiev and postpone matters indefinitely, he added. So the narrative now coming out of UK and EU officials is that if they do not empty out their weapon stockpiles and give them all over to Ukraine, starting with Germany. Germany has to be the first country to empty out its weapon stockpiles, but all those weapons need to be given to Ukraine, because if all of Europe's weapons are not handed over to Ukraine, then Ukraine faces defeat at the hands of Russia, and then we will have a World War III type of scenario. And I imagine what these officials are implying is that should Ukraine lose to Russia, then Russia would want to further expand westwards. Is that what they're implying? Because I would argue that that the expansion is not Russia moving westwards; it's actually NATO moving further east. That is the World War III threat. It's not Russia. Russia hasn't moved westward at all, actually. It's been NATO that over the decades has had this need to move eastwards, and it's a business need. NATO has to expand east, because if it doesn't expand east, then NATO has nowhere else to expand, and then NATO is meaningless. There's no reason for NATO to exist. As with any business, if it fails to expand, then it fails to profit. And so I would argue that it's actually NATO's expansion to the east that is a threat to the world and risks a World War III type of situation. So for NATO, it's absolutely essential that they capture Ukraine, because capturing Ukraine would then open up the doors towards further expansion eastwards. and that would be huge for NATO. That would be huge for the business of NATO, huge for the weapons manufacturers. It would pose an existential risk to Russia, which once again would be huge for the business of NATO. And so it's actually expansion through Ukraine and further east for NATO that's the real World War III threat. Not Russia, it's NATO that risks World War III. We have the U.S. chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley. He was in Germany the other day, and he visited the U.S. Army's Grafenwold training area in the German state of Bavaria, and he was overseeing Ukraine military training in Germany, being trained by American instructors. And Milley was overseeing this operation, and he said, and I quote, "This is not a run-of-the-mill rotation. This is one of those moments in time where if you want to make a difference, this is it." This is what Milley said to commanders on the ground in Germany training Ukraine military to fight Russia. So we have a push to send German weapons into Ukraine. We have a big time push to send German tanks into Ukraine. We have Ukrainian soldiers, and I'm sure they're mixed in with NATO soldiers as well, but we have Ukrainian soldiers training in Germany to be sent into Ukraine to fight Russia. And it's Russia that's recreating a World War II type of scenario. I would say that this looks more to me like it's NATO and the collective West that is recreating a World War II type of scenario and is pushing us towards World War III. That's what it looks like to me. The more things change, the more they stay the same. But there is no doubt that Germany is being used as the tip of the spear to continue to escalate in Ukraine. We even have Finland, the Helsinki government, the defense minister Mikko Savalo saying that, and I quote, "It depends very much on Germany's lead now how we act with Leopard tanks." This is what he told Reuters. The tanks, he said, require a German export permit, and in addition to that, the German defense industry has a very strong role in this and how substitutive equipment can be obtained. Everything is being coordinated and run out of Germany and Poland. Those are the two countries that are at the forefront, in the front of this escalation with Russia. But it's Russia that wants to recreate the dynamics of World War II. I don't know about that one. I would argue otherwise. But let's stick with Ukraine before we get to our clown world. And we have the CIA director, Mr. Burns. Reportedly, Mr. Burns made a trip to Kiev in January 2022, a month before Russia's offensive against Kiev started. And this is according to a book authored by Chris Whipple, where he writes about Joe Biden's presidency. And this is being reported by Business Insider. Burns made a trip, a secret trip, to Kiev in January. He met with Elensky, and he said that Russia was going to assassinate Elensky. That was the purpose of Burns' trip to Kiev. Burns had come to give Elensky, to give him a reality check. Whipple wrote in his book, The Fight for Life Inside Joe Biden's White House. Biden had instructed the CIA director to share precise detail of the Russian plot. A plot to take out Elensky. While Elensky had been reluctant to believe U.S. intelligence assessments of a likely Russian offensive, he was immediately sobered and taken aback by the claim that he personally might be targeted. As it turned out, the assassination claim was apparently false, inasmuch as there have been no confirmed Russian attempts to kill Elensky. Russian forces presumably had ample opportunities to take shots at the Ukrainian leader, especially as he ventured out of hiding increasingly, visiting such locales as Bucha and the front line of Bakhmut. If Russia really wanted to take out Elensky before the conflict, during the conflict, at this very moment, they would take out Elensky. The Russians don't want to take out Elensky because they want him there to sign the surrender. At least that is my thinking of what is going on. By the way, the Russians don't really take out world leaders. That's a job for the United States and NATO. They're the ones that target world leaders, and they're the ones that assassinate not only world leaders but their own their own leaders. If you go by various claims with regards to JFK, but we won't go there. This is the CIA leader, the CIA director, saying that it's Russia that wants to assassinate a leader of another country. This is coming from the CIA. I think this is all BS. I call BS on this entire thing, this entire book, this entire claim. This is just all about, once again, feeding the narrative of Russia. Russia poisons people. Russia assassinates people. Putin poisons people. Putin's a dictator who takes out people he doesn't like, or political opponents, or world leaders, when there is zero hard facts about this coming from Russia, and everything points to the U.S. and these three-letter agencies and NATO as the ones that actually go after world leaders. We came, we saw, he died, quoting Hillary Clinton. But this is just all about feeding the narrative of Putin poisons this guy and takes out that guy and targets journalists and all of these things. Do I need to bring up Assange? No, I don't need to bring up Assange. Right now, Latvia is holding the Russian, the Sputnik editor-in-chief, who is a Latvian citizen. They're holding Sputnik Lithuania's editor-in-chief in Latvia, who's a Latvian citizen. They're holding him in prison at this very moment. He's a journalist. But all of this is about feeding into that Putin kills people narrative. Putin poisons people's narrative. Putin poisons people narrative. And Putin, by the way, is the worst poisoner in all of history, because everyone he poisons and everyone that he tries to assassinate somehow lives. Which is, it makes Russia is the worst country when it comes to poisoning and assassinating. The absolute worst. I mean, Elensky is roaming around, allegedly, he's roaming around Kiev all day. European leaders are traveling to Kiev whenever they want. Whenever they want, they take the train right into Kiev. How many leaders have traveled to Kiev? And Russia has done nothing. They've done nothing. But when Putin tries to poison someone, whether it's Skripals or Navalny or any one of these guys, they completely bungle it. Like, Putin is the worst poisoner, the worst assassin in all of history. In all of history. Anyway, I call BS on this entire book. More media spin. Let's do our clown world. And let's go back to Martin Luther King. And this clown world has to do with this big sculpture commemorating the hug, the embrace between Martin Luther King and his wife when Martin Luther King won the Nobel Peace Prize. And this sculpture in Boston was done to commemorate this embrace between King and his wife. And this sculpture is just a complete, I don't even have words, to be quite honest. I mean, I like art, I enjoy art, but this was a a really, really big mistake. The question that I have with regards to this monument, to the embrace between, this monument commemorating the embrace between Martin Luther King and his wife, is why couldn't the artist just recreate that embrace? Was it that difficult to create a statue of Martin Luther King embracing his wife? But like the full sculpture, the full body of Martin Luther King and his wife? Why did they have to come up with this postmodern interpretation of what essentially was a beautiful moment between Martin Luther King and his wife, a joyous, triumphant moment? Why did they have to recreate that and reinterpret that? Why not just present that as it was? Commemorate that. Immortalize that event. Why did they have to chop off the heads and create this thing that looks like a you-know-what? That's what everyone is saying. This looks like a you-know-what. That's my clown world. That is my clown world for today. They're doing this on purpose, whether they know it or not. This is about embarrassing Martin Luther King and his legacy, not about honoring his legacy. Because if you wanted to honor his legacy and what he stood for, you would create a beautiful sculpture of that event, of that hug, of that embrace. Instead, they created this phallic symbol. All right, that is the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. We are also on Rockfin, my channel, Alexander's channel. The Duran's channel is on all the platforms, the major video platforms: Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, and Telegram. And go to the Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. Take care.